Hi, everybody. My name is Heather DeSanto, and I'm the owner of DiSH Events. And I am thrilled to be having another episode of What's Your Dish Conversations. And today I am thrilled to have Lisa Partridge with me. And you will never guess where I'm talking to her from. So I'm in Canada. And Lisa, where are you right now?
I am in Singapore.
That is so exciting. So right now we're doing this my evening and your next day in the morning. So I just think that is the wonder of Zoom and this fantastic ability to get connected across the world. We'll get into a little bit of what Lisa does and why I reached out to her and asked her to be a guest, because we seem to be very like-minded in a lot of
Mm.
ways. And so in that way, I'm going to invite Lisa to introduce herself. What's Your Dish Conversations are all about my interest in finding out the who, what, why, where, and how of how people work in their life, their business, and I would like to call the business of life. So, with that, Lisa, can you please share what your dish is all about?
I love that. I love that concept. What's my dish? I love it. My dish is I am the founder of SIXCOMMS, and I'm sure you can see behind me the 6 C's of my business. These are my values and how I like to show up and facilitate workshops and learning experiences. And the connection that we have is we really enjoy connecting people outside. So in, I suppose, the last couple of years. I've had the business for 4 years, and I left a job with the British Council Professional Development Centre here in Singapore, and I had that for 11 years, and then made the leap 4 years ago to start SIXCOMMS. And it's an interesting story, actually, how the 6 C's came about of the business. If you wouldn't mind me sharing that.
Please.
I ran a public workshop, a writing workshop, that had a framework in it that was used for editing. So when you wrote your email, you could kind of checklist these 6 C's, and they had clarity in them, but they didn't have the others. And so I thought, okay, this was really popular. And out of all of the frameworks, a lot of participants would say how useful it was to have that as a checklist. And so I thought, okay, putting writing aside, like that's one aspect of communication, but there are many other aspects. And we had been going through a pandemic, sorry, COVID, and a lot had changed, uh, for obvious reasons, lots of
Mm-hmm.
challenges. The world of work changed. And I thought when I started the business, okay, if I were to start again with this 6 C's, what would it include? And not just the writing aspect, but all aspects of communication. And so I started with the first three. So I said connection has got to be number one because everybody was craving connection.
Mm.
So number one is connection. And then I thought, okay, well, how can you have connection without curiosity? So those two are best friends. So then I
Right.
came up with the second one. And then I thought, well, there's so much change going on in the world, and it's really challenging. So what do we really all need? We all need some compassion. So that's what came as the first three, and that's become what I call the human centered approach to communication. It's those three that kind of hold hands with each other. And then I thought, okay, so I want clarity in there because we all need to know why we're doing things. We need to have an intention. Um, I work with so many different cultures and backgrounds and people with many different life experiences across generations. So there has to be some customization in there. And then I thought, well, what holds this all together? What really builds trust? What are some of the frustrations that I have when I see leaders or I've worked with managers in the past? It's there's a misalignment between what they say and what they do. And so
Mm.
how can we show up in a consistent way? And I was like, okay, consistency. So those are the six. And what underpins those is listening skills fundamentally. So that's how I came up with the 6 Cs, and that's how I came up with SIXCOMMS, the name of the business. Yeah.
I love that. And it's so just so timely right after the pandemic. Yes. And like I can hear myself almost in as you're speaking, because a lot of the things, while I don't use the 6 Cs necessarily, they're so timely and necessary. And so when you because you've been working with a lot of companies in Singapore. So, do you break this down for them and really get into the 6 Cs, or is it a framework and then perhaps they only maybe some a missing gap or something is connection only and you only concentrate on that, or is it always a customized using all six of the Cs?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it kind of it's there. Sometimes it's there in the background as my blueprint because that's how I think. So it helps me design experiences. Um, Sometimes it's a couple of them or three of them, depending on what their challenge is. And sometimes it's the whole collection, but it might not be that I actually am explicitly saying that that is what we're focusing on. It just comes through the design of whatever I'm facilitating, but it's always behind it in some way. And actually, the more I've been using it, the more I've realized that it's my values as well. It's what's important to me. So even if it's not explicit there on the page, it's always in the background, bubbling away. I
Oh,
hope
I
that kind of
love it.
makes sense. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. So then you create multiple workshops, and so where I'm going with this is I had an interview with a common colleague of ours a few weeks back, and she was interviewing me on about a signature workshop. So do you, with this framework, seeing that it's in the background, do you have a signature workshop that you always bring in, or do you often customize, given that one of the C's is customization?
Yeah. Um, I I would like a signature workshop. It is in the back of my mind to do that. Um, I have the 6 Cs as a document, so and as a blueprint, it actually comes up as a kind of, what would you say, a credo behind the walk and talk experiences. Um, so yeah, but I haven't made an explicit signature workshop, but it's on the to-do list, Heather. It's on the to-do list.
Isn't there, and as an entrepreneur, relatively new, you've been in it for a while, but is it the laundry list of to-dos so very
Uh,
long all the time?
it's just ever evolving, ever changing, yeah, always
Yeah,
growing.
that's amazing. So how do you find that clients find you? So just to give anybody that's watching a little bit of a background, I actually don't remember the exact moment I found you, other than perhaps I Googled or I put into LinkedIn walk and talk, because that is something that I'm super passionate about. And I was looking for people around the world, because it's not a unique concept to me, as I
No.
learned when I thought of it, kind of thing, in 2017. And so I think that's how I found you on LinkedIn. But then you do the walk and talks, which we're going to dive right into. But these workshops that you've been talking about, do you find you have a roster of clients that bring you back all of the time, or do you have to find clients? And my other question, as an add-on to that, is, are those businesses and whatnot in Singapore really embracing these workshops that you're hosting?
Um, I think any entrepreneur will say, if they're being really honest, it
Yeah.
would be ideal to have like those, those five big clients that are always kind of asking you back, and it's a continuous partnering process with them. And that's the ideal.
Yeah.
The reality is that how do they find me? In many different ways. It could be through, and in Singapore's small. So
Mm.
in that sense, it's quite beneficial because if I work with someone or I'm walking with someone, they will refer someone else, and someone else will know me through somebody else. And what is it, like 2 degrees of separation? But in Singapore, it really isn't. It's like a half a degree. So, um, so I think, I still maintain that it's that if you work in person with someone, it's the in-person referral that gets the most traction. The social media, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I would say for me is a visibility piece. So if I'm in a room or if I'm in an online conversation, they will refer to something I posted on LinkedIn. And that might or might not translate into a client.
Uh-huh.
So it's from in person, like the community I've created and I've built, it's from referral from that. It's from someone saw me on LinkedIn or someone spoke about me in a room that I wasn't even there. And that's why the walk has been so great, is that now I go into rooms and Singapore's small enough that people will feel like I'm familiar to them because I show up very consistently on LinkedIn. And they'll say things like, "Oh, you're the walking lady." So they might not necessarily know SIXCOMMS, but they'll know the walks that I've been putting on because it's so consistent. Um, so yeah, and it's also a mix of associate work. So I will be partnered with like other companies that have workshops already, and they're looking for a facilitator to go in and facilitate the material that they have, or they've got a client that wants something that's not really in their wheelhouse. They're not specialized in that, and they bring me in, say, for a writing workshop, which I've got lots of experience on. And they'll say, "Okay, Lisa, you can come in. This is our client. We've worked with them before, but now they're looking for this aspect of communication." And then I come in. Um, so in short, it's a lot of different things. And I
Right.
think that you have to be, this is just my opinion. I think the more things that you're involved in, like I also host a podcast as well, the more things that you're involved in, the variety, the net gets, this is my
Yep.
thinking, the
Hmm.
net is wider and therefore more fish will be caught. But I would say that it's not easy. It's a very long-term thing. It's about building relationships. And the ultimate dream is to have those 5 great clients that I just get invited back. Of course, everybody would love that and have a very stable client database, but that does take a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I can very much resonate with everything you've just said. So do you do so you're doing things in Singapore. So when you're connected to people on LinkedIn, so are you doing workshops online as well?
I have done, although lately it's been more in person, and I think that's also from my preference because I like being outdoors so much that I'm kind of getting spoiled. I'm spoiling myself because I find now when I'm online or I'm in a room, I'm like craving to see the trees and the outside because I just feel so much more comfortable, and I feel like the conversations are so much more meaningful and powerful. So yeah, I'm starting to get a bit of a bias for that, which I'm very aware of. Because but yeah.
Oh, we are very, very similar. So interestingly, and so I'm actually standing right now because, pardon me, I can't be outside. I can't be walking right now, but I find from an energetic perspective, I'm way more alive. I feel more alive when I stand up. So I do these standing up more than sitting down for that reason, because I am very much like you, would love to be outside all the time and really would love to see all of the events or things that I do outside, because they are just, there's so much importance to it, and we'll get into it in a minute, because I yeah, the walking and talking, because I'm super curious how that idea came to you. I know that you have in your bio that you're a certified outdoors coach, so I'm really curious on what that looks like. But I also want to just take a kind of a step back,
Mm.
because you're obviously British, but so what made you land in Singapore?
Yes, I haven't been able to get rid of this accent. Even though I've been in Singapore for 15 years now, I can't believe that.
Oh.
Yeah, 15 years. So we came, my husband and I came in 2009. And I don't know if your listeners remember, it was a credit crunch. And so my husband works in finance, and so lots of people were being made redundant. He went for an interview assuming it was still based in London until we got to the penultimate round and they said, actually, it's posted in Singapore. I was running a business at the time. We'd been in our new flat for about 6 months. We had to break the clause. um, I was quite happily doing my business. I ran a little English language teaching service, and I got to the point where I had about three or four teachers kind of going off to different areas in London, providing organizations and individuals with language training. So I was quite happy to kind of keep developing that, but it was a bad time. The market was really, really volatile. So I thought, well, this is an opportunity we can't really say no to. And like a lot of people here, a lot of expats here, we said, "Oh, okay, like a year or two, the worst comes to the worst, we don't like it, we go back." We just never went, we never went back, Heather. We had our three children here. We live a very local life. We live in what's called a HDB apartment, which the majority of Singaporeans live in, which is like a block of flats. We live on the third floor. Our kids go to local school. They do not sound like me. They sound very Singaporean, so it really confuses people. Um, which I love. Taxi drivers still collect me from my apartment and go, "Oh, you live here?" It's not usual, but it is getting more popular actually. But yeah, that's how we came here. It was through a job opportunity. I naively thought I could kind of run my business online and be away from it and still run it. That didn't work. So I
Hmm.
kind of gave that up, but found myself unemployed for the first time in many years. So that was a huge transition. And then fortunately got work through the British Council here, which led on to over a decade and being able to raise and have my children and juggle that. So I
That's
was very
amazing.
blessed. And so Singapore has been very good to us and we consider it home. Yeah.
That's incredible. I love that story. And I just Singapore honestly would never have been on my list until I found you. And so I see your posts on LinkedIn, and so now it's on my bucket list. If not for anything but to attend one of your walk and talk events.
Yeah, yeah. Please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
So let's dive into that. Can you share about your certified outdoors coach? I'm very curious on what that looks like.
Yeah, I found it again probably on LinkedIn. I'm a bit like obsessed with that platform. A shout out. But I found somebody called Leslie Roberts who's based in the UK, um, from Scotland,
Okay.
and some beautiful landscape up in Scotland. And she runs a business that's solely on taking executives and teams out into the landscape and having these conversations. And she wrote a book called Coaching Outdoors, which is fantastic. It's a fantastic handbook for anyone that wants to take their work into nature. And so I read that book, and then I realized that she ran an online program. She runs two. The first one is like the basic introduction to taking your work outside. And so I did that, and it's an online course over a number of weeks. And we go as a cohort, and then we have a group and we exchange ideas. And people were coming from different countries, which was great because we brought different environments into the and climates into the conversation. So that was the
Mhm.
basic one. And then I got the bug. So I thought, okay, I'll leave it a few months and then I'll see how I feel. And then I took the next one, which is called Nature as a Co-Facilitator, which is a bit more advanced of how you use metaphor and simile and really use nature and the natural elements as your kind of assistant facilitator really in the spaces that you're creating. So I went for that as well. and I met again some lovely people. And what was fantastic was I met a lady called Ellie Lloyd-Jones, who is based in the UK. And like you found me, I found her like a kindred spirit. And we have similar businesses, similar ways that we show up. And we ended up collaborating actually. And I went back to the UK in December to visit my parents. And we co-facilitated an event in a beautiful park called Hyde Park.
Oh,
And
I've been
we
there.
ended up, yeah, having like 20. I just get goosebumps even thinking about it because it was just such a special experience. We kind of did it all, organized it all by being in two different continents, which has its challenges. But we ended up with 20 amazing outdoor practitioners from different parts of the world. I had somebody who'd recently moved from Singapore who actually walked within Singapore, but then relocated to London. So we reconnected. I had a lady that's based in India that just so happened that she was visiting her daughter and she could make that day. And I'd met her probably 6 years previous in a conference I attended in Malaysia. So, and
Wow.
I had people that I'd had on the podcast that I'd never met in person. So I was meeting them for the first. I mean, I could go on, but you get the idea. It was just an incredible connection of people. And so that was an amazing collaboration. And Ellie and I, we just felt like we'd known each other for ages. And we literally met on this course. So yeah, so excitingly, we now are running something called the C2C Collective, which is we're bringing practitioners from around the world together and creating a space where we can exchange ideas. So yeah, so it's just grown and expanded, and that community of outdoor practitioners are just so generous, really, really generous.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that for you. And I would like to say, just because people that I find gravitate to this walk and talk concept and whatnot, or facilitating outdoors, or what, however you want to frame it, like we love trees, we love Mother Nature. They're
Mm,
like you already have that like-mindedness. So
mm,
I think that's what makes these sessions so beautiful, is that they're open already to different elements of it, so grounding and hugging a tree and things like that, right? Where sometimes people, when I say it, they'll look at you sideways and they're like,
mhm.
what do you mean to do that? And then once they do it, to see how they reap the benefits of that nature element. And so I think that sounds like a beautiful, beautiful event. And Hyde Park, I like, you took me back immediately. So it's been quite a few years, but that's super exciting. So I would love you to share, but as we get into the walk and talk, your motto. And I'm going to assume that you remember what it is, but I think it's fantastic.
Oh yeah. Okay, on that one. Let me think. It's come curious, leave connected. So
Like,
yeah.
brilliant. Can you, yeah, just explain what that means to you?
Yeah. So I kind of feel like I can't take full credit for this. So I'm very fortunate to have some amazing walkers in my community. And last year I ran a focus group and I invited some of them. There was about 12 to 15 of us. And I did that as an exercise, like to brainstorm what kind of catchphrase or tag phrase. And one of the groups came up with it actually, which is great because it it links to my 6 C's, the two that are most important, that connection and the curiosity piece. And it really is that because I often talk to people about showing up in spaces with kind of openness that we talk about, that gentle inquiry, that really trying to open up in a non-judgmental way. I wanted it to be a very inclusive space. So I often say to people like, this is not a hike. This is not for people that are ultra fit. This is for all shapes and sizes, all ages. And that's the beauty of it. It's like, when do you get the opportunity to walk with people from across the world, like from totally different backgrounds and work it and life experience? Um, and just have really down to earth conversations, and it just cuts out all of that superficial small talk. And one walker last year came up with another catchphrase that I often use when I'm posting about this. He said it's amazing actually because we start as strangers and we really leave as friends.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's an alignment there as well. Come curious, leave connected. Come as strangers, leave as friends, and it really does happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yes, I can attest to that. I just held one at a co-working event last Monday, and it was amazing how it really made the afternoon so different, because even we ended up doing a short walk, but even in that short amount of time, and I find it, like you alluded to, just the not having to face someone and look at them in the
Mm,
eye and have that uncomfortableness, whether you're like an introvert or an extrovert, like all of those walls go down because you're walking side by each, right? And you're not,
yeah.
you, all of that anxiety maybe about meeting new people just seems to fall away. So I love that, the come curious. And how I see that, and I'll get into, I've shared with you that I'm going to use the tools that I use in my walking and
Mm,
talking, because it's all about perspective, right? So you're going
yeah.
to walk with 15 people that come from all walks of life, and everybody has a different perspective on whatever
Mm.
topic you choose to explore and things like that. So I actually wanted to ask you, when you do these walk and talks, are they, I'll use the word like theme based, or do you use questions? Like, how do you, or is it simply they show up with the intention to walk and talk, and the world is their oyster as far as what they can talk about?
Yeah, so it's been an evolution. It's constantly changing. In the beginning, it was really open. It was really free. There wasn't any structure. And it's interesting, the more it's grown, the more structure I've put around it. And the more that I've done it, the more I've realized like I need to be clearer on the spirit in order to honor the people that come, and for it
Mm-hmm.
to be a space that's safe. And so, I mean, for me, it was all about coming away from transaction. So I was going to lots of networking events and leaving after 2 hours with like a handful of business cards and no real idea of like I'm probably not going to meet these people. Like no offense to the people,
Yep.
but it was just it was like, what do I have in common? I don't, to be honest, I don't really remember them. Like
Yeah.
nothing was sticking. So that was, it came out of a real selfish need and a
Mm-hmm.
desperation to find something that was more open, more relaxed, less transactional, not about, you know, going in there about pitching my business, 60 seconds pitch and who's going to become my client afterwards in such a short amount of time, because that really was against the ethos of SIXCOMMS, which is about long-term partnerships and real relationship building, which, as we know, is not in an hour networking event where we're all pitching at each other. It just isn't. Um, so to answer your question, how do I do it? It was very open at the beginning. I learned very quickly that when you have when you open a WhatsApp community, you'll have people that are very in line with the spirit of the group, and then
Mm-hmm.
you will have those that are not, and they're undermining it. So I had the dark side of it that I became aware of quite quickly. I had people trying to use my group as a database to then go and connect with people to pitch their services to,
Ooh.
which is like, that's the dark side.
Yep.
So I had to then, so when I bring someone into the group, they get my welcome, like, these are the three things. We're connecting, not transacting. So just
Yeah.
to like be very clear. Um, and then when we show up on the day, I have like a few things that I always start with, which is we go as fast as the slowest walker.
Yep.
We stay together as a group. Um, if you're not happy with the pace, if you want to have a break, then please just tell me and we can stop. At the halfway mark, at the 30-minute mark, I'll always take a pause, and that's where I introduce my cards. Now,
Nice.
in the beginning, like you, I had a number of different cards that were my favorite, and I like used to switch between cards that someone else had produced.
Mm,
Nowadays, I now have a monthly theme, and I align the theme with my six C's, and I create my own cards with the six C's.
smart.
So for this month, it's bloom and breathe. Whatever you
Mm,
take from that, bloom and breathe.
I
Um,
like that.
and I align that theme with the six C's. And I also took this from Ellie when Ellie and I did a collaboration. She was really good at taking aspects of wildlife in the local environment and then designing that into the card. So in
Mm,
Hyde Park, we would have the different wildlife, the birds, the animals, the insects, and we'd have on the back the characteristics of those, and then a question related to that, that then people could choose whatever resonated with them and whatever they wanted to speak to. So then it's more of an explicit link to the
yeah.
nature. And so one of the objectives has also evolved is that I'm really keen for people to know a bit more about Singaporean wildlife and nature, because I think some people think it's a concrete jungle, but there's such diversity of nature here that I didn't even know. And I feel like it's my responsibility to kind of understand it a bit more.
Mm.
So that's when I attach a natural element in Singapore to the six C's. So, for example, curiosity is now the otter, the beautiful otter that we see. We see otter families around our waterways quite often. I have some in my local Bedok reservoir. Um, so yeah, so I've associated the wildlife with the seas, and then I have it around a theme, and that changes each month. Yeah.
I love that. So you do it a little bit differently in that I tend to pair people up and then switch partners so that they get to meet multiple
Yeah.
people throughout. Um, yeah, I think it could work both ways. And I like the fact that everybody comes together because again, from a networking perspective, you're getting to meet everyone. I
Mm.
guess in my mind with the pairing people up, it just encourages people to keep coming back, right? Because if you didn't, maybe you're a little curious about this person over here, but you didn't get connected with them. So it's a reason to come back because, like you, I talk about it being movement, not
Yeah.
exercise, right? Because it's being outside, getting movement in your day, and conversing, like from
Mm.
the best things in life, in my opinion, are those things, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
that's
I,
really
I
exciting.
do, just to your point on the changing of partners, I don't assign partners at the beginning because I found that they organically just go together. I don't want to interject in that. I want them to gravitate to the people that they want to gravitate to. But I do take a folder with me, and on the on the clip, it's a clipboard, a green clipboard, and I've like got the motto on the front because I was finding people weren't necessarily knowing what I looked like. So
Ah,
so like, oh,
okay.
are you? And then they were going around different people saying, are you? Da, da. So
Yeah, so
now I
I've
have
seen
this
you with
clip.
your thing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love
And
that.
inside it has change on it. And I hold it up
I
when I
love it.
want people to change because we get stuck with the same person. So I was getting complaints from people saying, oh, I didn't meet them and I didn't meet them. So now I've just like, okay, I've put my change up and just to remind you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. And so how often I am trying to see in your no, how often a week do you do these walk and talks?
So it's every Monday at 8 a.m. Now it is. I've experimented over the past 18 months that I've been like seriously doing it.
Mhm.
Um, so it used to be a bit more than that. And then I didn't have evenings, but I do now. So I do every Monday at 8 a.m. I change the location, and once or twice a month in the evening. Um, yeah,
That's
that's what I've
awesome.
settled down for the moment. It probably change again.
Well, and that was going to be my next question for you. Or how are you finding, like, if you did have it during different times of the day? So yours isn't necessarily for business owners, let's say, in the connecting that way, like, because you've said it's open to anybody. So do you find that the 8 a.m. they get their movement and they get the connection, and then they go to whether they're entrepreneurs or their full-time job? Like, it's the sweet spot of when you're getting the most people to be able to attend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that because I most of the community is entrepreneurs and small business owners. Um, they can do a 8 a.m. on a Monday, but for those that have full-time jobs, they can't do that. So I would like to attract a bit more of a diverse group, but I'd have
Mm.
to change the timing. So it's like I've tried 7 and that's too early for
Yes.
most of so I have to go with the majority of the people that I've ended up with, which just so happens to be business owners like myself. I thought the evening one would attract more corporates, but I'm struggling, to be honest, to get
Yeah.
people to come out. So maybe it's the time. But in Singapore, we have to be careful because we've only got the two ends of the day to work with. You can't go in the middle of the afternoon in a tropical climate. So it's either got to
Mm.
be early in the morning and 8 a.m. really. Ideally for me, it'd be 7:30. I just can't get people to come out at 7:30. Or it's the evening when the sun's not so strong. So
Right.
I'm only working with those two ends of the day.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Because that was going to be my next, because I find sometimes the sweet spot is lunch hour, but that would be the highest point of the day when it would
Can't
be just
can't
nobody
do
could
that.
be able to do
Yeah.
it. Wow. Very interesting. And so, similarly for me in Canada, I find the winter, you've got to find your
Mm,
people that don't mind coming out in the winter, and obviously be very mindful of ice, and because I don't want
yeah.
anybody slipping and things. So similarly, this now, so when you say bloom and breathe, it's the spring here. So we're blooming and trying different things. And so I like that concept. And just I applaud you for keeping at it, because I think it's something, to what we spoke about before from a networking perspective. People are just so entrenched with the going to it, sitting, and then standing,
Mm,
doing your 30 seconds, and then maybe getting to mingle. But the way that I always look at it is that, what if you're the person that isn't comfortable just approaching new people, right? And I've been
mm.
in so many of these 30-second pitch ones where, and I was that when I first became an entrepreneur, right? So you're the ninth person that's going to speak. Well, you don't hear the first 8 because you're so in your head about what you're going to say. And then you say what you say. And then for the rest of it, you're like, oh my gosh, I should have said this, and I should have said this.
Mm,
And so to
yeah.
me, completely ineffective, right? And so that's why I love what you do and what I do. It's just, I say networking differently, and it's not for everybody, but I am
Mm.
convinced it's going to be the thing around the world at some point in time, because
Yeah.
eventually we're just going to
Yeah.
keep going at it, Lisa.
Oh, I love
I
it.
love it. And I have so many more questions, and I'm very conscious of the time. So I would like you just to share a little bit about your podcast, just because, given our geographical difference,
Mm.
if somebody wants to be able to connect with you and learn more about you, can you share a bit about what your podcast is all about?
Yeah, so the podcast is really trying to expand and unpick and unpack what those 6 C's are in terms of how we communicate now. So it's a podcast that is very much practical. At the end, you'll leave with 2 or 3 practical tips that you can apply in your workplace that's going to elevate or hone your communication in some way. And it's an interview podcast. So I get some amazing guests to come on. One of which I'm just going to link this to the theme we've been talking about outside space. One of which is just an amazing story. Do you have books find you, Heather?
Yes, I absolutely do.
Okay, yeah. So I have this happen quite a lot, and one of the times it happened was in a public library here in Singapore. I was just browsing the shelves, waiting for my daughter to come out of her class, and this book just jumped out of me. It had a very big campfire flame at the front cover, and that's what attracted my eye. And I picked it up and I started looking inside and I was like, oh my goodness, like who's watching? This is crazy. So this was a book that I'd recently started walking with people and I'd really felt the benefits, but I couldn't really back it up with the
Mm,
science. Well, this book had all what I needed to know inside.
that's
It
amazing.
was called The Creativity Factor by Gary Pratt. And
Ooh.
he is doing some amazing work in the UK. And he's just an incredible person. And I couldn't help myself. I had to go on LinkedIn to see what his profile was like. So I went on and I messaged him and I said, and the opening line was basically, your book found me in a public library in Singapore. And I invited him to be a guest on a podcast. I was a bit nervous actually because I'd never had an author on. And
Mm.
within a day, he messaged me back going, I am over the moon that you found my book randomly in a Singapore library. And so I had him on the podcast. So that's one episode talking about how we can have more meaningful conversations when we take ourselves outdoors and just walk with people. So he's
Ooh.
in the innovation space as well. So he talks a lot about how he can get teams to better collaborate and do their best thinking.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, the podcast is like that. It brings on many different specialists from different areas. Um, and we talk about different aspects of communication. So intergenerational, um, listening, so tools and techniques that help us to be a better listener, holding space, so
Mm.
facilitating spaces, leading meetings, how to keep them engaged across different platforms, whether that be online, hybrid, or in person. Presentation skills, how you can come away from slides and be really engaging and interactive. So, yeah, and it's just really unpacking what these 6 C's are about. And the last question is always I ask the guest, which C out of the six is resonating most with you now and why? And how does that link with the topic that we're discussing? So, it's like a breathing, living, breathing resource, a curated resource that's bringing these 6 C's alive and helping people communicate more effectively. Yeah.
That is brilliant. I love that very much. And it was a beautiful segue to bringing back to the tools that I use in
Ah,
my
yes.
business. So they're called points of view. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. So I'll ask you, Lisa, would you like me to pull a random word or a random question?
Um, I love questions. Can
Questions?
you, yeah.
Yeah. And so obviously similar to what you do, these would be in a process framework where they come, but for this purpose, we're just going to, oh, this is a perfect one. Just what your answer will be when I pose the question. And it is, what makes me laugh?
What makes me laugh? What makes me laugh? Oh, the first thing that came to my mind was my children.
Yes.
They make me laugh probably on a daily basis. So things that they come up with and yeah, just their creativity and my daughter, especially the youngest of my children, she is always coming out with interesting little songs or little stories and very dramatic and expressive when she conveys them. So they make me laugh a lot. And I suppose on on a work related thing, the other thing that popped in, it makes me laugh that some of these networking events are marketed as places to connect. I suppose not in a laughing way of that's hysterical, but just, oh my goodness, really? Like,
Yes.
that's
We are.
really not gonna help people connect.
Yes.
So,
Yes, we are very
yeah.
like-minded in that way. And it's interesting because I love that you say that because I would say that as well, but not in a judgy way because again, like to each their own, right?
Yeah,
You if
yeah.
that's what you like, then that's what you like. I like the fact that we're giving an alternative to
Mm,
connecting and networking and giving people a different opportunity to connect, like I say, differently. So
yeah.
that's amazing. I love it. And so I'm going to ask just an extension on that because your kids make you laugh. So then we go into this like, do you find that you play more because you have young children? So like the laughing, right? Because they're so, they don't think about
Yeah.
consequences and there's no judgment and all of that. Like, do you find that you tap into that with your kids?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I
Good.
do. I do try to be playful, and whenever I collaborate with people, I that's one of the things I say. It's like, we've got to have a laugh along the way. That's
I love it.
that's
I
what
love it.
makes the world go round.
Isn't it though? Oh my goodness. Okay. And my, before I'll have you, as we'll sign off, I'll have you share where the best place that people can find you. But because this is called What's Your Dish, I'm going to ask what your favorite dish is. What is your favorite food?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is such a difficult question. But the one thing that came to mind is me Soto I am, which is a basically it's a very nice chicken soup, and
Oh,
it has very thin noodles inside, with this very thick broth. It's very flavorful. It's and for me, it's my comfort food here in Singapore. So it's a local dish, and yeah, I just love that. I always feel really, really great after having it.
oh, well, another
Yeah,
reason for me to come to Singapore to try that because that sounds delicious. I
yeah,
love it. Well, Lisa, it sounds like I could talk to you forever because like-minded attracts like-minded. And but maybe another time I'll have you on. But for the purpose of sharing for people that they can connect with you, we've obviously talked about LinkedIn, but LinkedIn and you're also on Instagram. I just have you share that if you don't mind.
yeah. So LinkedIn is, if you just type Lisa Partridge, it will come up. You will see when you click on my profile the six C's, not looking like this, but a lot prettier. And underneath there's a link, and you just click it, and it goes straight to my schedule for the upcoming walks. Because I say, come and walk with me, is my kind of also my tagline.
Love it.
Walk with you soon, not talk with you soon. Walk with you soon.
Nice.
So that's the LinkedIn. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, I have Instagram. I have two Instagram accounts. One is SIXCOMMS Lisa, and then SIXCOMMS Podcast. The podcast one is just solely for the podcast episodes. And I have a website, sixcomms.org.
Amazing. I love it. Lisa, it's been an absolute pleasure. I thank you for starting your Wednesday. Well, I can't assume that you started the exact moment with me, but given that it's this time, 9 a.m. your time, I
Yeah.
just want to thank you so very much. I know it's taken a bit for us to get connected, given the time difference and whatnot. So I just really appreciate you. And I say thank you to you for what you do in Singapore and for those that are open-minded enough to join you.
Mm.
I know that it's just going to continue to grow because I really do believe here in Canada, but also around the world, that uh, the way to connect can be different than what
Mm.
we've been doing for so very long. And people like yourself and myself and others that do this in the world have a really special place in my heart. So I just am very grateful for your time today. And thank you so much for joining me. And for anybody that's watching, please do connect with Lisa. If you happen to be in Singapore, please attend one of her walk and talks. I know even that I've not been to one, I will know you will not be disappointed. And if you are watching this and would like to be a guest, please reach out to me. Send me an email, heather@dishavents.ca, and I'll send you the information and we can pick a day. And because I just absolutely love doing this and meeting people. And so, Lisa, thank you so very much. I appreciate you. And I hope you have an amazing, amazing day.
Thank you so much.